be it understood and realized that the Old Testament is to do with African people writing about African situations. All of the Nimrods who created cities, the architects of the time, the builders of elaborate structure, the Davids of our time were in fact Africans.
Jesus Christ is introduced to us through the Christian Bible. Where in that Christian Bible can we go to prove that the character Jesus Christ was in fact a Nubian man?
Revelation 1, 14 and 15. His head and his hairs were as white as wool, as white as snow. I'll come back to that in a moment. But when it speaks in 15, verse 15, of feet of brass, well, what is brass? Brass, the word that the King James translators saw was charcoal-banon, which means, well, gold color that's been rusted and burned, because we're speaking of burnt brass. So if burnt brass, what's this burnt brass? A process of oxidization between oxygen and finding it's a clash between two energies. So what you get in the end is soot, accumulated soot, so dark, rusted, feet, gold color, which is burned, charcoal-banon. So then the question is, if we've got gold color, burnt feet, brass feet of black African Christ feet, then how then, this is the contradiction in Bible terms, can we have upper body, hands, face, chest of white European phenotypical feature? That does not make any sense. So when we come, for instance, to his head and his hairs are as white as wool. The Random House Dictionary 1986 from New York says that hair like wool is not in fact sheep's wool. It's talking about lamb's wool. The definition of hair in the Bible, as represented once again by the Random House Dictionary, is lamb's wool. Lamb's wool, in effect, is short, thick, and crisp. Now, my Rastafarian friend asked me, have I ever seen a newborn lamb? No. The question is no. Well, Palestinian sheep, the lambs, if you've seen a newborn, that they call them, nicknamed blackheads, the blackhead lamb, you'll find it's got hair which is short, thick.
What drove you to write the book Inklings of a Black Christ?
So anger, it's a part and parcel of trying to find out answers to questions that I kept asking, even from the point of childhood. Are all of these pictures I used to ask my mom of Christ, blue eyes, blonde hair, are they classical, stereotypical, truthful pictures of the Christ? And each time, well, polish my shoes, clean my fingernails, have my bath, have my dinner, go to bed, and those questions have plagued me for years, until one day I was doing a working party, preparational workshop, schools, that sort of thing, at Acna Center, the Saturday school thing, and one colleague of mine, Rastafarian, was conducting his own session on geography, economic geography, based on Africa and African religions. So when the Christ was mentioned, the Ka, for instance, an embodiment of the ancient Egyptian school, and the Osiris Karast, meaning the mummification process, the Pharaoh, and I'm beginning to think, oh, but Christ is not the name of a person, it's a grand title. But my Rastafarian colleague inside the Saturday school was explaining this so well that as teacher of my own English class, all of my class folded up and we joined him for me to learn something about the Christ. That is where my book began. You ask me what is the relevance in terms of African people, African Hebrew Israelites, as we are descendants. We need to know that the Italian Renaissance was a put up job. It was created during the life and times of Pope Julius II, or better still, the time of Constantine the Great. But then this is it. Where did the 33-year-old Christ come from out of the Michelangelo? Well, we are told by the same magazine, Newsweek, May 1986, that Michelangelo went down into Florence and he invited his uncle to send his son inside the studio, his 33-year-old son, to sit down and pose like the Christ. So there are things that have gone terribly wrong in terms of icons and imagery. When the Council of Nicaea in AD 325 was called and a number of changes were made, for instance, Saturday, the holy day, the seventh day Sabbath, was now changed to Sunday, and the idea of a 24-hour day came into circulation. Instead of the old sundown, sunset, the Egyptian, the Jewish, it had now become 24 hours. The night follows noonday. And there, the inklings of an actual black Christ, the African Christ from out of the ancient Egyptian experience, was now changed. All experiments to do with an updating of the Christ was done under the auspices of Constantine the Great. And this is why Dr. Francis Cress Welsing in the ISIS papers has designated Constantine the Great as the father of white supremacy. That is where it came from.
Why do you think that Jesus Christ has been portrayed as a white man for so long?
Because of experiments which, for instance, have been carried through the same thing to do with imagery, the imagery and the beast. I'll come back to what do I mean by the image and the beast, bringing his image into circulation. Because on the Virginia tobacco fields in America, for the first time when slaves, do they call them slaves, kidnapped ones, were being transported from Africa to work the tobacco fields and cotton fields, somebody holding up, so that John Henrik Clark, an effigy of the white Christ, blue eyes and blonde hair, says, "Come, all of you, come, let us bow down and worship the Christ. Thou shalt not worship or bow down to any image or serve them." That seems to be a contravention of the law. So what are they thinking to themselves when they see an effigy? Africans, for the first time under enslaved conditions, are bound literally to be baptized, one, and to enshrine within the confines of their minds a white Christ. So does that mean that that is the end of their identity? So Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says that where the image, where the damage has effectively been done in the ISIS papers, she's arguing, is childhood. When the Hans Christian Andersen, when we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, are looking at all of these pictures of Snow White and the dwarfs and Angel White and all of these beautiful effigies to do with European prototypes and phenotypes, and in between all of these little golden books series is slipped in a picture of Jesus Christ and his disciples.